Bro, I'm pumping off adrenaline. I'm way too in my element. I know there's people better than, but right now who is better than? A man that's working hard as shit, trying to find a pot to piss, showing all the ups and downs shit.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Extreme Lifestyle Living Podcast. Now, today, what I want to talk about is stop seeking external validation. You have to stop seeking external metrics of measurement as validation and only rely on your own personal validation. And I'm going to talk about why that matters. External validation doesn't always align with what you need and truly want. And we all, to a degree, crave external validation, whether it's like our friends or family validating us through telling us, like, we look good, what we're doing in life is great, or, even with our relationships, whatever we're doing in that regard, career standpoints, they give us verbal confirmation that we're on the right direction. Like, all these things is external validation. Even if when you go to the gym, like, as much as you want to, like, look and feel better for wearing your clothes and, looking good in the mirror for seeing yourself, you enjoy when people notice how good you look in your clothes or how good you look when you walk in a room, or when you're at the gym and you get the progress like shadow from somebody that they notice how hard you've been working. All of these things are external validation, especially or even our job status in terms of our career is external validation. And then even how much we get paid, all these different things are external validations. And like as much as we all get caught up with this and fear of judgment from other people, and we want to be like, just looked at as somebody as a good person. And, just like I said, like all this external validation from whatever area in your life that you're craving it the most, are all valid, but we can't let the external validation come at the expense of our self-worth, our self-esteem, who we are as people, and let it almost blur our vision of our own validation, So the biggest thing with external validation is that, you got to learn how to use it as a metric of measurement, not as your worth. So what I mean by that is let's an easy black and white one that we would all relate to a degree is, we go to school, we go to junior high, we go to high school, and then we go to either college or university or told to get some continued education to get a career. That is external validation of society for us to make a certain amount of money, to have a certain type of lifestyle, to be able to live a certain type of way. All of that to a degree is external validation unless you truly understand within all those metrics as to what you want out of it. Like if there's a career path that you want, let's say nursing or doctor degree or, your PhD or master's, like shout out Kayla, thinking about her, like she knew what she wanted for a degree and she got it, she finalized it, she got 2 masters, so she got it, so that's not only external validation, but that's her own validation as well. And, I know a couple other people as well that knew exactly what they want to do for school or the military or policing, whatever it may be. But that wasn't me. So a lot of that for me was external validation, I couldn't not go to college or university because it's just if you don't do anything after, you're just kind of a fear of judgment, and then there's all these other different things that follow suit with that. And, I always had a general idea what I wanted, but a lot of it was just external validation through other metrics of society, my age group, what other people my age were doing and what I thought I would need to do to have a certain type of lifestyle that I wanted as I grew. And, when I started working as well, same thing. We all want a promotion. We all want to make a certain amount of money. And half of that is for the status, in terms of we want a certain car for our own regards, for our own validations and such. But, maybe that there's another external validation we want other people to see, or a house or travel or whatever it may be. But we can all relate to going to school, getting a career and wanting it for some external validation standpoint. We all don't want to look like a failure. We all want to look successful. We all want to look like we have our shit together. We all want to look like we're progressively gaining more traction in our life, right? So a lot of us, all of us, rely on external validation to a degree, but we got to use them as metrics of measurement, not our worth. Prime example when it comes to vanity metrics, when it comes to your fitness goals, when you want to look better for people's attention and stuff like that. Yes, that's great. That is there's nothing wrong with that by any means, but you can't let that come at the expense of who you are as a person and your self-worth. You can't solely show up in the gym to change your life, or solely show up into your life with your friends, your boundaries, and your career advancements solely for the hope of somebody else's validation or some other metric of validation, because you're going to be chasing a never-ending pit of just fulfillment. You're never going to feel 100% satisfied because you don't really hold the control over your own validation. So, when someone says you look good, or, let's say I'll speak from a guy's perspective, you get shredded, you lose a lot of weight, you start to see some veins, you start to gain some more confidence, and girls start to notice you, that's great and all, but it's at the same time, that's validation that you're on the right track, and you got to keep doing what you're doing for your own rewards, your own validations and stuff like that. It doesn't have to have anything to do with that is your definition of success and who you are. So it's okay, let's go to the gym, or, let's track our macros, or let's go harder in the gym for more external validation. validation. And, to a degree, everyone gets caught up in it. And the same as women too. I'm not just biasing guys. I'm just saying it from my perspective, because I can remember like hearing so much more of that verbal validation from both demographics, guys and girls, no matter where I went, from chasing fitness goals. And it did play a factor in my motivation. But again, it wasn't at the expense of who I was as a person. I never let it go to my head too much, because I knew I knew it could become catastrophic. And I think, like I said, with females too, it's the same thing. You start feeling better. You start to get a little bit more of a shape on you. You start to gain more confidence. You start to see results. Same thing. Guys start to notice you more. Even other women start to notice you more. And all of this stuff is metrics and measurement. Let it be your signs of validation. You're doing the right things. And, same thing when it comes to we can go as far as your parents' expectations of yourself. What they think your career should look like, what they think your lifestyle should look like, and what they think your career, your friendships, and your financial side of your life should look like. And all of that's external validation. You want to make them happy. You want them to, feel heard and seen. But at the end of the day, you may have different beliefs, and you can't let that come at the expense of your own self-worth. And there's so many different ways we could take this conversation. But the biggest thing is, just in a nutshell, is, rely on your own self. Rely on your systems, rely on your processes of validating you for you, because it's your ultimate power. Like no one or nothing can have control over you if you understand what gives you your own green box ticked off in your own mindset, in your own life. If you can cross your own T's, dot your own I's, and give yourself that validation yourself, then every single thing else outside of that is just external validation that aids and assists in your overall alignment for your own validation. And I know that can be a little bit wordy near the end, but it's like at the end of the day, it's just like, that it's just a funny saying, like, don't get lost in the sauce. And it's like, we all just try showing up every single day. We all just try being the best versions of ourselves, criticizing ourselves, criticizing what we're doing all the time, and really just trying to be the best versions of ourselves, right? And, sometimes you can get lost in terms of, like I said, lost in the sauce in terms of what you're actually doing. And, where you are now once was where you prayed to be. So a lot of those external signs of validation were your goalposts, were your T's being crossed, were your I's being dotted to gain the next level of life that you're at. But sometimes it's always good to realign yourself to make sure that you're validating your own stuff. Because at the end of the day, you got yourself here. And when you start to really level up and conceptualize the life that you want 1000% and remove any barriers from a mental standpoint, a perspective standpoint, a belief standpoint, to get in the way of your goals and understand what you want in life, this whole concept of realigning your expectations from external validation, validating your own matters, things like this, is going to be a continuum. Because as you grow, you change. As you grow, your perspective changes. As you grow, you look at things different. As you grow, your what you want out of life is different. And, what you find really makes you feel the best version of yourself may change. So that's why this external validation is like stepping stones forward to that end goal that you want. But at the same time, don't look for those solely for your success. So rely on yourself, rely on your systems, rely on your own processes. Validating yourself for yourself, and just let that be your superpower, because at the end of the day, you got to stop seeking external validation if it's your only source of validation. But that's all I got for today's episode. I appreciate you guys a ton, and let's just keep doing what we do best, which is lead from the front. Let's go.
Bro, I'm pumping off adrenaline. I'm way too in my element. I know there's people better than, but right now who is better than? A man that's working hard as shit, trying to find a pot to piss, showing all the ups and downs. Shit is filled with awkward.